Good afternoon. It is October the 14th.
Today we're talking about people making a difference in the foster care community.
The conversation starts now.
On Rob and Tristan's Foster Life.
October the 14th. We're halfway through the month. Tristan is still out on assignment, but will be back with us on Wednesday and Friday. Hopefully, this crazy weather we've been having, you never know, but he should be back here on Wednesday and Friday with us. Cindy is filling in. She has an extensive background in social work, and so she'll be filling in for me today as Tristan. And
I'll make it work.
Yeah, you're good to look at, but he's fun to look at too, so it all works out. And my favorite. And then of course we have Joe Mama, who's always on the show, but is getting ready to premiere her Joe Mama's House coming up. And I think, is your premiere the Halloween thing?
It is.
Oh yeah, so we're gonna have costumes and punch ideas, and I think you guys are having a Halloween party, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. And she'll be premiering that here at the end of the month. Joe Mama's House. You can only catch that on FOSTERTV, and we're excited about that. For more information, go to fostertv.net, and you can click on Joe Mama's House. So, do we have any news today?
So, we do have news today. I wanted to talk a little bit about the Trevor Project. Have you heard of that?
I have not. Tell me.
Okay, so
I want to hear.
The Trevor Project is an organization that kind of came into play. We've talked a lot about the cyberbullying. We've talked about how that affects kids in the LGBTQ community. So the Trevor Project pairs an adult with someone within the LGBTQ community.
Right.
And it just, what they have found is that it has made such an impact on those kids to reduce their depression, their anxiety, their fears, and things like that. And the hope is, and what we talked about Channing Smith before, and how our heart breaks for that.
Yeah,
so
that was the young kid, if you don't remember, in Tennessee, who was being cyber bullied about his sexual identity, and he ended up taking his life.
So the Trevor Project, one of their goals is to reduce, the suicide rates.
Oh.
And so the Trevor Project is the world's largest suicide prevention and crisis intervention organization for the LGBTQ community for young people. And this group offers like volunteer opportunities, and so they have a 24/7 hotline that you can go to, and you can also find it on, like, you do Trevor Chat, and you can do a Trevor Text program.
Yep.
But it's a great organization that is working within that community to, to provide support.
I love the Trevor Project, and let me tell you why I love the Trevor Project. Is when we did our cyber bullying episode, which, by the way, is the #1 ever Rob and Tristan Foster Life show. So we had more viewers for that show than anything. Quickly approaching 400,000. When we did that show, all of our research and all of our experts, we have producers that give us this information, that research this stuff before we come on and talk about it. And the #1 group of people that is still bullied the most and harassed the most is LGBTQ+ community. So what I'm saying is we've come a long way, but it's going to take things like Trevor's Project to keep us rolling in that right direction. And I think these are positive steps that we need to take. And what I really hope, because we do news every week. I mean, we do a good news story, we do a regular news story in each episode. But I'm hoping by us sharing that might give somebody in another state, a leader in another state, an idea, and they might say, hey, well, we could do something like this in Iowa, and then somebody in Kansas can say, hey, we could do something like this in Kansas, and then pretty soon we're making strides, because our platform isn't just Missouri, we're around the world. You know,
27 countries now.
Yeah, 27 countries. I have, you know, a few dozen families that tune in India and listen to what we have to share and say. And some of those people are missionaries, but some of those, I mean, one person explained it to me in Australia the best. There's foster kids in every country. There's foster kids. And so hopefully what we're doing is we're kind of spreading the word and then getting it out there so that we can help more people.
Which is our mission.
Right. I love today's show because a lot of times we talk about how we can do things better. We educate, we do things, and then sometimes we have to talk about kind of sad things. Like the cyberbullying thing has really bothered me. It was almost to the day that this whole Channing Smith came to head in Tennessee, to the day that we shot that show. They were within days apart. And I just, you know, you just wish it could be different. But today we get to talk about good stuff. People that are making a difference in the foster community. And you want to tune in. You might be saying, oh, they're just going to be talking about. No, you want to tune in because you might know people in your community that are doing good things, and we need to spread that word too so that more judges can be more involved, and so more caseworkers might change the way they're doing things, and foster parents might see things different. So this is an important episode, and we're only talking good stuff today.
Good stuff.
And our news story started out good, and I bet we're going to end with a good news story too. Oh, good. So we got a great show for you today. We're glad to have Cindy here. We're glad to have Joe Mama here. And we're going to be talking about good foster stories when we come back right after this. TRISTAN'S Foster Life today. I really like that we get the opportunity to talk about good stuff today. You know, one of the things that I want to talk about, the first one that I want to kind of feature, is we had a lady by the name of Jackson Bean when we first got our first kid, and that would have been Robert. And so Robert had a lot of problems with school, so out of the gate we had to do homebound. And that's basically where he did his schoolwork at home, and then after school, he would go and meet with the teacher, and they would do their homework and testing and all of that kind of stuff. But this teacher knew that this was our first kid, and she had a degree in working with kids with special needs. And I would bet that she spent just as much time teaching Ethan and I how to work with Robert as she did with working with Robert. There was a lot of days that I would be really frustrated. Maybe Robert decided that he wasn't going to do his schoolwork that day, and so we had sat at the table and we needed to get all this homework done because he was supposed to go to school after school, and she was expecting it to be done, and they were going to do testing so that he would be on track, and it wouldn't be done. And you know, she'd take me aside and she'd say, well, this is, you know, some things that you can try. These are some things that you can do. Don't get so worried about that kind of stuff. We're not worried about that right now. We're worried about this. And she had to really, because Ethan and I didn't have a background in this, but she really kind of took us under her wing, and she spent that time with us, and she didn't have to do that, right? And she wasn't paid to do that. But she wanted to make a difference in Robert's life. Do you know that Robert is a senior in high school now? She got him in the 7th grade. And she has moved. Like, she doesn't live anywhere around us. And she still, just last night, checked in on Robert. How's he doing? You know? And when we have little speed bumps with Robert, she's one person that I still, to this day, reach out to for advice and guidance and support and really love.
Well, I think some of the best supports that you can find when you're fostering are people who have the concept that kids don't live in a vacuum.
Right.
It takes, you know, the people on the outside and those teachers and even the faculty at school can make a difference, and all of those people make such a huge impact because they think outside the box.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think the other thing, you know, as we're thinking about this, if you're just beginning your foster journey and you think you're going to do it on your own, you got to open your mind, because it really does take a village. And I know that's kind of overused sometimes, but it does. It takes a village to work with these kids that are in care. And it takes a lot of us. And I think of the church people at our church that have made a difference. And sometimes when our kids were too much to handle, sometimes they would take them to their house and do a snack with them or whatever. And it takes so many. I like the one that you brought up at our production meeting. One, I like this judge, but tell us a little bit about him.
Well, Judge Zipperman is a judge that is known in the area, in our local area. And Judge Zipperman is just so forward-thinking.
Oh, yeah.
And he's open to all aspects for the kid.
Yeah.
And for the family too.
Yeah.
Because he's open to bio families, foster parents, adoptive parents. He's such a team player. And I've seen him come off his bench and come and talk, you know, directly to a child or to a parent. And, you know, I mean, as a caseworker, you know, working with him, I mean, he really valued what our information was, because we're in the trenches, you know, working the case. And so he really valued that. But he would also ask the foster parent about how the kid was doing, and sometimes he asked the kid.
Right.
You know, like, how are you doing? What do you think? You know? And so he's very, very involved. And I just think that sometimes judges take kind of a bad rap because, you know, they're the ones that have the final say and that sort of thing. And I just think that, you know, they don't get recognized enough for the good that they do.
Judge Zipperman, he started the drug court program in the 39th Circuit. And he started working with all of that and stuff. And what I like about him is sometimes judges, like when parents use and then they don't use for a while and then they relapse. So he does all his studying and stuff, and so he understands that it's important for parents to relapse, because if they don't relapse, they have less of a chance of staying sober. And most people don't know that. But he gets involved with his cases and he studies so that he can understand those bio parents a little bit better. But I think he's the best way, and I'm a big Judge Zipperman fan. You guys know I volunteered helping him with his drug court for a long time. But one of the things that I like about him is he seems like he's for the kid. And he really does put the kid first, like we're supposed to, but he's for the bio parent, he's for the siblings, and he's for the foster parent, he's for the caseworker, and he tries his very best to kind of work with all aspects of the case. And we don't always see that in judges. And I think as a judge or an attorney or whatever your role may be on the legal end, if you're watching this, I think it's good if you can somehow be a part of the playing field, you know, because you get more that way.
Right. And I think that I think when they are involved in that playing field, I think it does add an element to the case that makes it more doable.
Right.
I mean, I think the parents that are working their cases feel included. And I think that is always a positive. There's nothing ever that can go wrong with that.
Right.
So I think that when those, when the people that are within those professional roles can really be involved, and I know it's not always possible on every single court meeting or court hearing or team meeting for there to be all that involvement, but if there can just be some, you know, sprinkled throughout the duration of the case, I think it just makes the case go so much smoother.
Right. The one thing that I love, I've seen him give some butt chewings.
Oh, I have too.
And he will chew your butt when it needs to be chewed. But have you ever noticed that he always ends that butt chewing with a positive? And he always tells these parents, you can do this. I know that you can make this happen. I know that if you work your services and you do the things that you need to do, that you're going to come out better on the other end. And I love that he, because, you know, I'm in court quite a bit. I got 10 kids, so I've seen a lot of judges. And I think that those butt chewings are good, but I love how he always ends it on a positive note that, hey, you can do this. You can get your kids back. You just have to work the services and you have to do it. So my hats are off to Judge Sickerman. I think he does a really good job. The other thing we were going to talk about was CASA and kind of what they do, because I think that they're a very positive role in the foster community too, and most of your states should have CASA. And so tell us a little bit about what CASA and CASA workers do.
Well, CASA is a court-appointed a special advocate for the kid, and they are appointed at the beginning of the case. And the goal of CASA is to be a consistent support for the child throughout the case. And I think, you know, they're trained, they're volunteers, but they have access to the information of the case. And I think that it gives the kids some consistency and continuity throughout the case, so that they have that one person that always stays the same. Because unfortunately, as we've talked about on here, caseworkers change, therapists change, teachers change, foster parents change, residential facilities change, but a CASA worker goes with that kid through all those changes.
How many times do I hear on these Foster TV's My Story? So we hear that they get these workers and they start trusting them. And so they get like Jody, and they start trusting you, and they feel like they can talk to you, and they're starting to let out their inner feelings, and they're starting to make progress, and then all of a sudden, Jody takes a better paying job doing something else, which is not Jody's fault. Jody has a family that she needs to support, but the breakdown for the kids is really hard, and so having that consistency, I can see where that would be very helpful.
I love the CASA program. I think here locally, our CASA program is phenomenal. The work that they do is just unmatched by anywhere else. I mean, they do a phenomenal job.
Yep. And you will see, so sometimes when you're a good foster parent and you're doing it for the right reasons, you will see that sometimes workers will stay with you until a case closes. And we've had 3 that have done that. 3 great workers that they knew that they were making a change in their career, but because they liked our family, they liked the kid that we were working with, they just came to us and said, I promise you that until the adoption is done, I'm going to stick with you. But the day it's done, and these 3 people that I'm thinking of, and you know who you are, you guys went and put in your resignation the day after our adoption. And so, and that's good. So sometimes you reap what you sow too, as a foster parent.
Right.
If you're sowing good seeds with your team, and you're being supportive, and you're being open, and you're doing your part, sometimes they'll stick with you and make sure that they're with you too. And I think that that's really good as well. When we come back, we're going to kind of change it a little bit. We're going to still talk about good, but we're going to talk about how we can get those behaviors from rocky to a little bit more on track. But it's going to take your work to put into it when we come back. No more trash bag moves for foster youth. Help us buy bags. Donate at FOSTERTV.net. Click the yellow donate button. Foster TV is a HEDFRA production. Only at Foster TV. We are back on Monday Foster Live. We're talking about good stuff today. So Joe Mama's here with us. You have your new show, Joe Mama's House, coming out. We talked about it at the top of the hour today, but I want to bring you in on this good stuff. A lot of times when we first get kids that come into care, we see real extreme behaviors, and sometimes there's the honeymoon phase, but I'm talking after we get through that little honeymoon phase. But also sometimes, I had one that had kicked me and was calling me dirty names before the worker was even out of the driveway, and he was in the 3rd grade, and it was that he really loved his foster home where he was, but he couldn't be there anymore, and but he came to love us. And so what I want to talk about is, what are some good ideas that you have that we can do as foster parents to change those negative behaviors into the good feeling behaviors, so that we have more success stories because I think as a foster parent, I don't ever want to just bring it in and just kind of ignore it. I want to start working on it right away so that we can see positive changes and see growth and see all of those kinds of things. So what would you recommend?
I would start with a chart to just chart the behaviors that are happening, whether they be the good ones or the bad behaviors. I think it's good to start with like a baseline.
Yep.
And what is expected.
I like the chart that you were telling me about in our production meeting. What do you call it?
Caught you being good?
Yeah, caught you being good.
Caught you being good.
And I think that that's probably a better place to start.
That's what I did with my kids, and we liked to point out the good. They didn't have as many behavior issues as maybe some of your kids.
Right.
They don't have the background that some of yours do. So,
right.
A little bit different, but you can modify it for each kid. All of your kids have a different background, so you can, or behaviors or whatever, you can just, it's the same concept for each one. And if you want to have a baseline of what is good, what is expected, so that you can go from, you know, like, this is what we want, but this is what happened.
Right. So what I'm kind of thinking right now is, so if you're taking in a level kid who has elevated behaviors, so I have to have a place to start. Well, they're in a new home, so griping and moaning at them is probably not going to work real well when they're in a new home.
Right.
So the gotcha being good is really helpful when you first get them in, because you're going to be telling them, hey, Trevor, I really like how you cleaned your plate up. and you took it to the sink and you cleaned up your spot after dinner, awesome job. Or, hey, Julie, I really liked how you made your bed this morning and your room looked really good and stuff. And so you're given a lot of that positive feedback. Then one of the things that we talked about that we do is then once we've kind of gotten through that cycle, we've kind of gotten to know each other and stuff, then we kind of go to a behaviors chart.
Right.
And that looks a little bit different from the sense of we're ranking
Yes.
them.
Which is good when you are talking about the negative behaviors.
Right.
So that they can, especially if you're working with a therapist,
Yep.
that everybody's on the same page, and then you can just take the chart to the therapist's office, and then that they can see firsthand how you guys have dealt with it. What maybe there was good behavior on Tuesday, but he had a test.
Yeah.
So when he came home that evening, his behaviors were bad because he felt like he did
Right.
poorly on the test, so that's affecting everything else. And that's good to rule things out or narrow them down. If it's a home stress or if it's a school stress or however that may pan out.
When we were first learning, we would we document these behavior charts. And so the therapist said to me, now remind me when he has his mom and dad visits again. And I would say on this day and this day, and he says, and see the day after that, we had a bad day and that day after. We make ours really simple, so I do Monday through Sunday, and then we just, it's a 0, 3, 5. So 0 is not good. 3 is, we were a little shaky, and 5 is good.
Okay.
And the reason why we make it 0, 3, 5 is I have found with my younger kids that they might think, and when I say younger, we're talking like 5 up, that they might think that they had a 5 morning, and then when they see me write a 3 down, it gives us an opportunity to connect and let them know why it's a 3. And if you're a home parent, it works better because you have more time to communicate. So if you're a stay-at-home mom or dad, it gives us more time to communicate. And what I'll see with my kid is I'll see that they got a 3, and then they're striving to get a 5 for the afternoon, and then it can go up. And then, vice versa. If they had a 5 in the morning and then they had a 0 for the afternoon, they're going to strive to get a 5. Now, what we do with our younger kids is if they have 2 5s through the day, and we do a morning, afternoon, and evening, and if they have 2 5s for the day, then they get a sticker on there. And so, like Rosley's goal is to have 7 stickers. He wants stickers for every day. And I have a bunch of different stickers. I have some car ones, I have some baseball ones, I have all kinds of different stickers. He gets to pick his sticker. We get to put them on there. And then Santa Claus signed Rosley's behavior sheet.
I saw that when I was at your house today.
At Christmas time, and told him, it was good that he was having those good weeks.
Yeah.
But I tell you, it does make a difference when they visually see it on the refrigerator. And you see those better behaviors, and we have not been doing it with Rosley for the last few months, and we have seen a decline in behaviors, and so we know that we need to get back on that so that he can physically see how he's doing, he can gauge himself. It gives us opportunity to open up conversations and see what's going on, and then we can move forward.
I think it's really cool that you do that, because I think that gives the kid that chance. They don't even know that they're doing it, but that's self-regulation of emotions, and that self-control of behaviors.
Yep.
And so there's some real good stuff that's happening just by reading numbers on a chart, for them going on. So I think it's a really good thing to do when you're having those behaviors.
It also, whenever, like the caught you being good that I did with mine, we collected those. And if my son was having a bad day, then bring them out. Like, wait a minute.
Yeah, look at all the good stuff you do.
You can't, just because you have one bad day, what about all these times where I caught you being good?
That's a good point.
Yeah, that is a really good.
Just because you have a bad day does not mean it's a bad week or
Yeah.
bad whatever. You have, I mean, we have these right here.
Yep.
And when it works.
Gauging is always good. So in the state of Missouri now, they have this safety, whatever, it's they're really into the safety program, which is awesome. And signs of safety, and so they ask these questions with our kids when they're alone with them, and then they ask us the same questions with the kids. And so they rate things from 0 to 10. And one thing that our worker always asks our one kid is, on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 meaning that you need to go back to residential because you're just not doing good, and 10 meaning that you're doing the best ever, where would you rate yourself? Well, our one son would say, oh, I rate myself as a 3. And so that would mean that he's like close to having to go back to residential. And then she would come to us with him and say, where do you rate him? And I would say, oh, we rate him a 6. And he would kind of look at us. And so through doing that over several months, do you know that now we are almost always right in park? Because he's learned what our expectations is in comparison to his expectations. And so now when she asks us, she just did this the other day, and he said, you know, I'm at I think he said an 8 when he was out to ice cream with her, and then when she asked us, I said, I feel like he's about an 8. And so now we're in sync. So that gauging does work. It helps them to understand what your expectations are, what their expectations are, and it's a good way, it's a good motivator, especially if they're wanting things or whatever. We do little prizes or special little things, and they don't have to cost money.
Oh yeah, they can just be a walk around the block together.
Yeah, Rosley loves to go to the park with his dad, just in the Jeep, just the two of us, and we go hang out at the park, or we walk around, or we go play, or we do whatever, and they can earn those things in doing that. The best gift that you can give, I say any child, but especially a foster child, is one-on-one time. And people ask us all the time, even tonight, why? How did you do this with these boys? And I would say more than anything was one-on-one time. And we strive to spend some time with our kids. Now that means that I have to sacrifice a little bit. Last night, I really wanted to spend some time with E, so I went and spent some time with E. Well, I really wanted to spend more time with E, but I really thought about it, and I thought, man, I haven't really spent any time with my 22-year-old in about a week. I probably should take him with me to do my other stuff. And so sometimes we have to make those sacrifices, but in the long run, this morning, guess what? My 22-year-old went out and mowed my front lawn that needed to be mowed, and he participated in some stuff that needed to be done this morning, but that's because I took that time to just spend with him. So when we come back today, we're going to be wrapping up on Rob and Tristan's foster life. We're talking only good things today. Hey everybody, it's Rob with Rob and Tristan's Foster Life, and we want to remind you that we have our trash bag moves for foster kids. No more campaign going on right now. Right now, if you go to our website, you can get a FOSTERTV official film crew t-shirt. Right here, check them out. And when you buy one of those, that gets 2 bags for foster kids so that they don't have to move with trash bags or grocery sacks anymore. When Tristan and I did our research, we found out that trash bag moves and grocery sack moves have a negative psychological impact on foster youth. So trash bag moves, no more. Buy your t-shirts today. FOSTERTV.net.
If you'd like to make a donation to Foster TV, visit FOSTERTV.net.
Welcome back to Foster Life today. We have been talking about the good things. And you know, if you know somebody, and I mean teacher, worker, judge, CASA worker, foster parent, counselor, therapist, if you know somebody who is making a difference in the foster community, who's going the extra mile, I want you to go to FOSTERTV.net and click on Let's Talk and just tell us their story, because we want to feature those stories not only on our show, but we want to recognize people once a month that are doing things to better the foster community around the world. And so if you're thinking, oh, I know somebody that's going the extra mile and they did this and they did that, just go to FOSTERTV.net, click on Let's Talk, and we want to know all about it. And it's a really easy way to get in touch with us. And the cool thing is one of us is going to call you back. If it's not me, it's going to be Cindy. If it's not Cindy, it might be Tristan. If it's not Tristan, it might be Courtney. Somebody on this team is going to get in touch with you, because we want to hear those stories and we want to learn as much as we can so that we can spread that around. So do you have any good news for me today?
I do, and just like some of the other good stories that we've shared about people that were making a difference, I ran across this story, and it's from inner city New York.
Oh.
So a tough neighborhood.
I bet they have foster kids.
And they have foster kids.
Yeah.
So there's a gentleman by the name of Guy Bryant, and I think if we could all strive to be a little bit more like Guy Bryant, we would be in a better place. So Guy has opened his doors. He's been fostering for several years, and he's opened his doors to older teen boys.
Mm-hmm.
And these are kids that are still in foster care, but they're hard to place.
Oh, yeah.
We talk about that all the time, how hard it is to place older teens.
After 9, I think they say 8 or 9,
yeah,
it just really starts plummeting on placements. So he took in older teens in the inner city.
Inner city, and so if you just think about some of the things that he probably has to deal with from being in such a center city setting, and he has taken in multiple sibling groups, you know, even like cousins, you know, and things like that, and he's just made such a difference in these kids' lives. And I just I mean, I just think it's such a warm feeling for a kid to have somewhere that they can go.
So these kids have a lot of time on their hands, and in the inner city, not like a small town where there's not a lot of things to do, there's a lot going on,
right?
And there's a lot of people, and so things happen. And so we need those strong role models and advocates and foster homes in those inner cities that can make a difference. And you know, those feel-good stories like Blind Side and you know, there's a bunch of those where they've come and worked in the inner city, you know, and done basketball or sports or whatever. And I think about all the people that have made a difference over the years in the inner city, and it takes gentlemen like him who said, you know what, I'm going to open up my door and I'm going to serve in my community, and I'm going to do this. So here's how I want to end our good news segment today. Fostering might not be your thing. You might be watching because you're thinking about fostering. You might be watching because you need to be encouraged. But the one thing that I want to tell everyone today, it doesn't matter if you foster or not, but get involved in your community. There's always something that you can do within your community to help someone else out. And I think that was a really good picture of just getting involved in your community. We will be back on Wednesday on Robin Tristan's Foster Life. Hopefully Tristan will be back.
Hopefully.
And you'll be here.
I'll be here.
In your normal seat.
Yes.
And it'll be just like Old Home Week right here on Robin Tristan's Foster Life.
Help support Foster TV. Go to FOSTERTV.net and make a donation today. Foster TV's My Story is a HEDFRA production. Only on Foster TV.